Israeli farmers are pushing the boundaries of what can grow in the harshest climate. And they're proving that with the right technology, even the desert can be productive.
The Negev Desert is one of the harshest and driest places in the Middle East. Temperatures can climb past 60 degrees Celsius. The winds are so dry that they pull moisture from almost everything they touch. But inside this same desert, Israel has done something that feels straight out of science fiction. Instead of fighting this desert heat, they built a working fish farm right in the middle of it. And I'm not talking about a small fish farm with a few thousand fish. This is a farm large enough to support more than 1 million of them. So, how did Israel manage to do it? And why has it become one of the most remarkable desert engineering projects in the world? Let's dive in. Hidden Ancient Ocean. Deep below the dry sand of the Negev Desert, a hidden secret waited in complete darkness for hundreds of thousands of years. No one could see it. No one could reach it. Yet beneath this silent ground lay the strangest farming projects ever created. Around 700 meters below the surface lies the Nubian Sandstone Aquifer, a massive underground water system stretching across parts of North Africa and the Middle East, including southern Israel. But this was not ordinary groundwater. It was fossil water, ancient water trapped for tens of thousands of years. Long before the Negev became one of the driest deserts on Earth, this region was dramatically different. Scientists believe it once experienced a far wetter climate, filled with grasslands, vegetation, and landscapes closer to a tropical savanna than a desert. Rain fell here thousands of years before the rise of human civilization in the region. Over time, that water slowly seeped underground, becoming sealed beneath layers of rock and trapped under extreme pressure for millennia. For most of history, it remained completely unknown. That changed in the 1970s. Faced with severe water scarcity, Israel launched drilling programs across the region, searching for deeper and more reliable water sources. Among those leading the effort was Professor Hillel Isar, who believed that something significant might exist far beneath the desert floor. He pushed for deeper exploration than anything attempted before. Heavy drilling rigs were brought into the Negev Desert, and operations began cutting through layer after layer of hardened rock. Day after day, the borehole went deeper. With every meter, pressure increased, and conditions became more extreme. Then, after an intense drilling phase, the breakthrough finally came. The drill penetrated the aquifer, and suddenly, water surged upward from deep underground. For a brief moment, it looked like a miracle had been uncovered beneath the desert. In one of the driest regions on Earth, a vast underground water reserve had finally been reached. But that excitement did not last. As testing began, two major problems quickly emerged. First, the temperature. The water was not cool or fresh. It remained between 37 degrees Celsius and 40 degrees Celsius year-round, heated by geothermal energy deep within the Earth. It was closer to bathwater than drinking water. Then came the second, even bigger issue. The water was salty. Not ocean salty, but still brackish, with a salinity level roughly 1/10 that of seawater. That might sound small, but it was enough to make it undrinkable and dangerous for most agriculture. Crops would suffer, soil would degrade, and fields would quickly lose productivity. What had seemed like a breakthrough suddenly turned into a dead end. Israel had discovered water, but not usable water in any traditional sense. Hope slowly shifted into disappointment. At this point, many countries would have abandoned the discovery entirely, sealed the wells, and moved on. The costs and risks were simply too high. But instead of asking how to make the water usable in the normal way, Israeli researchers asked a very different question. What if something could actually live in it? And that single shift in thinking opened the door to a solution nobody expected. Impossible desert fish. The breakthrough did not come from a machine, a new chemical, or a giant dam. It came from living creatures that already knew how to handle conditions that seemed impossible. Scientists started searching far beyond the borders of Israel. They looked for animals that naturally lived in warm and slightly salty environments. Their search led them thousands of kilometers away to the rivers, coastlines, and tropical waters of Australia, Africa, and the Indo-Pacific region. There they found several species that seemed almost perfectly matched to the strange underground resource hidden beneath the Negev. One of them was barramundi, a highly valued fish known for growing quickly in warm conditions. Another was tilapia, a species famous for its ability to adapt to difficult environments. Sea bass also showed strong potential. These fish did not see the desert water as a problem. They saw it as home. A remarkable opportunity was beginning to take shape. Unlike many species raised in colder regions, these fish thrive in consistently warm conditions. They do not need icy winters or changing seasons to survive. The underground supply emerging from the desert remained naturally stable throughout the year. In Europe and North America, many fish farms struggle when winter arrives. Farm owners often spend millions of dollars heating their tanks because the water becomes too cold for tropical fish. Nature itself handled the heating. That advantage changed everything. Another benefit soon appeared. The mild salt content helped reduce many common parasites that often affect farmed fish. Healthier fish meant fewer losses and better production. What once looked like a useless resource now seemed almost perfectly designed for aquaculture. The idea sounded unbelievable, but the results soon became visible across the landscape. Large facilities began rising from the desert floor. Places such as Kibbutz Mashabei Sadeh and Aquatech Fisheries developed systems that used the underground resource in a completely new way. Pumps moved the warm supply upward every day. Massive ponds and growing areas spread across land that many people believed could never support such activity. The contrast felt almost unreal. Dry hills stretched toward the horizon, while countless fish moved beneath the surface nearby. The scene looked more like a tropical farming region than one of the driest parts of the Middle East. Production continued month after month, without the seasonal shutdowns common in many other parts of the world. Numbers kept growing. More ponds appeared, more fish arrived. Before long, close to 1 million fish lived in these carefully managed systems. The achievement attracted attention because it challenged everything people thought they knew about deserts. Yet the greatest challenge had not arrived at the beginning of the project. It arrived after the fish started growing successfully. Every day, these animals consumed food and released waste into the water around them. As production expanded, that waste increased as well. A new obstacle slowly formed inside the very system that had created this success. Growing fish was only half the miracle. Something far more important was about to emerge from the water they left behind. Waste becomes gold. Success finally arrived in the desert. Large numbers of barramundi, tilapia, and sea bass grew inside the carefully managed ponds. The system looked impressive from above, but a serious threat was already building beneath the surface. Every day, thousands of fish consumed food. Every day, they released waste back into the water. As the population increased, that waste increased as well. What first looked like a thriving operation slowly faced a danger that could destroy everything it had achieved. The challenge grew larger with every passing day. Inside the ponds, invisible compounds started collecting in greater amounts. Fish released ammonia through their bodies. Other materials added nitrogen and phosphorus to the water. At low levels, these substances seemed harmless. At higher levels, they became dangerous. Ammonia could damage delicate gills. Oxygen levels could drop. Water quality could collapse. If nothing changed, healthy fish could become stressed, sick, and eventually die. A growing industry now stood in front of a problem that threatened its future. The next decision would determine whether this desert experiment survived or failed. Around the world, fish producers usually solve this issue in one of two ways. Some install large filtration systems that constantly clean the water. Others remove the dirty water and release it elsewhere. Both solutions come with serious costs. Advanced filtration equipment requires large investments and constant maintenance. Dumping used water can create pollution and harm nearby ecosystems. Those methods become even more difficult in dry regions where every drop matters. In the Negev, water was too valuable to throw away. The situation demanded a completely different way of thinking. That moment changed the direction of the entire project. Instead of seeing a problem, Israeli engineers saw an opportunity. They studied the nutrient-rich water and realized something important. Farmers spend money adding nitrogen and phosphorus to their fields every year. Yet those exact nutrients already existed inside the ponds. Suddenly, the waste no longer looked useless, it looked valuable. That realization led to one of the smartest ideas behind the entire operation. Engineers created what became known as the double usage system. The process was surprisingly simple. Water came up from the Nubian sandstone aquifer and entered the growing areas. The fish lived in that environment and naturally added nutrients over time. Instead of removing the enriched water and treating it as garbage, operators sent it toward nearby agricultural land. The same water now served a second purpose. It carried natural fertilizer directly to crops. Nitrogen supports growth. Phosphorus strengthened development. Unlike many chemical products, these nutrients entered the soil gradually. Plants absorbed them over longer periods. Farmers gained irrigation and fertilization from the same source. One challenge had quietly become another advantage. A resource that once threatened the entire project now helped support something much larger. And when this nutrient-rich supply finally reached the fields, the results surprised even the people who built the system. Farms from sand. The nutrient-rich flow finally reached the land, and that is where the story took another surprising turn. Many people expected problems. They expected damaged fields, weak harvests, and struggling plants. Instead, they witnessed something completely different. Areas that once looked dry and lifeless slowly began showing signs of growth. Small patches of green appeared where endless shades of brown had dominated the landscape for generations. The transformation did not happen overnight, but it happened steadily. Season after season, more evidence appeared. What started as an experiment was becoming a working system. The results soon attracted attention far beyond the fish farms themselves. Farmers directed the enriched supply toward olive trees and date palms, two crops already known for surviving difficult desert conditions. These plants had developed natural toughness over thousands of years. Their deep roots searched for moisture. Their structure handled heat that would destroy many other crops. Most importantly, they tolerated brackish conditions far better than sensitive fruits and vegetables. That natural resilience allowed them to take advantage of a resource that many other plants could never use effectively. A remarkable chain of events was beginning to unfold across the desert landscape. As the seasons passed, farmers started noticing encouraging changes. Many trees developed stronger growth patterns, harvests improved, production increased. In some locations, the fruit quality also changed in a positive way. Researchers and growers observed that moderate salt exposure created a mild stress effect inside the plants. Instead of harming them, this response often encouraged the fruit to store more sugars. As a result, many dates became richer in flavor. Some olive harvests also showed excellent quality. The same condition that once seemed like a weakness now contributed to better agricultural results. The desert was quietly rewriting its own story. Another important process worked beneath the surface where most people never looked. The soil itself became part of the solution. As the nutrient-filled water moved through the ground, layers of earth acted like a natural cleaning system. Tiny organisms inside the soil helped break down materials. Minerals trapped unwanted compounds. The ground filtered and improved the water as it traveled deeper below. No giant machines performed this task. Nature handled much of the work on its own. This created a powerful cycle that connected every part of the project. The fish supported the crops worked with the soil. The soil helped protect the surrounding environment. Together, they formed a system where one part strengthened the next. Looking across these areas created an unforgettable image. Rows of olive trees stretched across land that once seemed empty. Date palms rose against the bright desert sky. Green groves stood where many people expected only dust and rock. Life had returned to places that appeared impossible to farm. The achievement felt almost magical, yet it came from careful planning and smart design. The desert had become productive in a completely new way, but an even bigger discovery still waited ahead. The true genius of this system was not the biology, the crops, or the fish. The real breakthrough appeared when people started counting the numbers behind the success. Economics of survival. When people first hear about fish growing in the middle of a desert, they usually focus on the engineering, the underground resource, or the unusual farming methods. Those parts are impressive, but they do not explain why the project survived for so many years. The real answer appeared on balance sheets, business reports, and operating costs. In the end, every successful system must support itself financially. Without that foundation, even the smartest idea eventually collapses. This desert operation succeeded because it solved a problem that affects agriculture across the world. It found a way to make limited resources generate value more than once. That single advantage changed everything. Water has always been one of Israel's most valuable resources. Farmers, industries, and cities all compete for the same supply. Because of that demand, fresh water often costs more than 60 cents per cubic meter. That price may not sound dramatic at first, but it creates serious challenges for large-scale food production. Fish farming usually depends on huge volumes of water. Even small increases in cost can reduce profits quickly. Many businesses struggle because operating expenses rise faster than production. For a project located in a harsh desert environment, the numbers seemed even less promising. Yet another hidden advantage was waiting beneath the surface. The brackish supply coming from deep underground carried very little market value because most people could not use it for everyday needs. It was unsuitable for drinking and less attractive for traditional agriculture. As a result, its cost remained extremely low compared with treated fresh water. What many people considered a disadvantage suddenly became a financial opportunity. That shift opened the door to a completely different business model. The operation created value at multiple stages instead of relying on a single product. Aquaculture facilities gained access to inexpensive water. Agricultural producers received nutrient-rich irrigation without paying for large amounts of commercial fertilizer. Both sides benefited from the same source. The pumping expense also served multiple purposes instead of supporting only one activity. Every leader performed more than one job before leaving the system. This approach dramatically improved efficiency and reduced overall costs. A concept that looked unrealistic on paper slowly became commercially viable in the real world. The results eventually reached markets far beyond the Negev. Israel began exporting desert-raised fish to Europe. That outcome carried a remarkable irony. A nation known largely for dry landscapes started selling fish to regions surrounded by rivers, lakes, and coastlines. Geography no longer controlled the outcome. Human creativity changed the equation. People found value where others saw limitations. They turned difficult conditions into economic advantages. They transformed a challenge into a competitive industry. The achievement proved that success does not always come from having more resources. Sometimes it comes from using overlooked resources in smarter ways. The numbers made the project work, but they also revealed something much larger. This story was never really about fish. It was about a powerful idea that could help solve some of the biggest challenges facing the future. Blueprint for tomorrow. The story that began beneath the sands of the Negev now reaches far beyond the borders of Israel. Around the world, millions of people face challenges that grow larger every year. Temperatures continue to rise. Long, dry seasons last longer than before. Many rivers carry less water. Some lakes shrink year after year. Across entire regions, farmers struggle to produce enough food, while available resources become harder to find. These problems affect communities on nearly every continent. They also force countries to search for new solutions. That is why this project matters far more than most people realize. It offers a glimpse of what the future might look like in a changing world. The most powerful lesson comes from a simple idea. Valuable resources are not always missing. Sometimes people simply do not understand how to use them. The underground supply in the Negev seemed wrong from the beginning. It was too hot for traditional use. It was too salty for ordinary farming. It was too deep to access easily. Many people would have looked at those challenges and seen failure. Instead, others looked at the same conditions and saw potential. That different way of thinking changed everything. A resource once considered a burden became the foundation of an entire industry. That transformation carries an important message for the future. Similar opportunities may exist in places that face the same difficulties today. Large parts of the Middle East struggle with limited rainfall and extreme heat. Many areas across Africa face growing pressure from drought and population growth. Regions in Australia deal with water shortages and harsh environmental conditions. These locations may not copy the Negev system exactly, but they can learn from the same principle. The answer is not always finding something new. Sometimes the answer is using something old in a smarter way. That idea could help support agriculture in places where traditional methods become harder to sustain. The significance of this achievement reaches beyond one country, one industry, or one generation. It speaks to a future where creativity becomes just as important as natural resources. It shows that difficult conditions do not always create limits. Sometimes they inspire innovation. What happened in the Negev was never just an agricultural experiment. It became a demonstration of human adaptability. It proved that people can build opportunity from conditions that appear impossible at first glance. In a century shaped by climate change, drought, water scarcity, and food security concerns, that lesson may become more valuable than ever before. This is not simply the story of fish raised in a desert. It may be an early example of how future societies feed growing populations on a hotter and drier planet. And perhaps the greatest discovery was never hidden inside the Nubian sandstone aquifer at all. The greatest discovery was the power of human imagination to see possibility where everyone else sees a problem. In the end, Israel did not simply release fish into a desert. It redesigned an ecosystem. This project changes how we think about agriculture, water, sustainability, and survival. In a warming world, the answers may not come from finding new resources, but from using old ones in smarter ways. If your country had a desert, would you turn it into a fish farm? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Also, if you love watching impossible transformation stories from around the world like this one, subscribe to the channel. We'll see you in the next video.